Can you spell your last name?
C-A-L-L-A-H-A-N.
And your age?
My age is 42.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't know if it's...
And your education background?
Okay, my education background is I have a BA in English from the University of Notre Dame.
Ooh.
In South Bend, Indiana. I have a master's in education from UB or SUNY Buffalo, however you want to call that. We can write this stuff down later.
Yeah.
And I have a PhD in English education from UB as well. So yeah, I did a lot of school.
Okay, what college are you in?
Right now, I am a professor at Nazareth College.
And why did you choose that college?
Well, I first actually, when I finished my PhD, I was a doctoral student at UB, and I was starting to look for jobs because I was almost done with my program. And the first job I got was at the University of Rochester, and I got that job, and I moved to Rochester from Buffalo, and I worked there for 7 years, and it just didn't end up being a good fit for me. I never really felt like I was at the right place. I never really felt like... I liked a lot of things about it, which is why I stayed 7 years, but as it turns out, I don't know, I just got talking to some colleagues of mine, and actually I didn't necessarily want the job at Nazareth. I applied for a job at St. John Fisher because a friend of mine worked there and thought it would be a good fit for me, and she encouraged me to apply. And while I was getting all my materials together, I saw that there was a job at Nazareth, so I thought, well, now that I have my resume together and my cover letter and all my materials, maybe I'll see if, you know, just in case I don't get the job at Fisher, I'll also apply for this job at Nazareth. But I didn't think I wanted the job at Nazareth because I was like, I don't know if I like that job. Anyway, as it turns out, I didn't get the job at Fisher, but I did get the job at Nazareth, and it's turned out to be the perfect job, I think, for me. I teach in the adolescence education program, which is one of the reasons I wasn't sure I wanted it, because I used to be in English education only, and now I teach people from all different subject areas.
Is this the first time you left home?
It's probably not. Yeah, these questions are...
Okay, did you...
You can kind of wing it a little bit more and just...
Did you have a job? Okay, is this the...
Just if you like...
Can I just exclude some?
You exclude as many as you want, and
okay.
You can make up questions based on like what you're learning about me too.
Do you like working at Nazareth?
I do. I like it a lot. Do you want me to tell you why?
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy working at Nazareth because I find it's a very close-knit community. My two experiences at colleges before this were at UB, or State University of New York at Buffalo, and that's a huge, huge, huge university. And then I went to the University of Rochester, which is a smaller university, but still pretty good sized. So when I came to Nazareth, we only have about 2,000 undergraduates, so it's the size of a big high school, basically. Mm-hmm. And I just find that you're able to get to know your students, you're able to build community in your classes, and I just feel like as a professor I have a lot of chance to connect with my students and with other professors too. Because at the big universities you tend to only talk to the people in your little division. And at Nazareth, I talk to people from all different departments across the college, like other faculty, other professors. It makes it really nice. And the other big difference, which is probably important for you guys as you think about colleges, is that at a big university, professors are expected to spend a lot of their time researching, which means for the college, the most important thing, when I was at the University of Rochester, my bosses really, all they cared about was that I did research and I published articles. And if my teaching was so-so, it wasn't that big a deal. Because as long as I was getting published and becoming famous for whatever field I was in, the teaching was not as important. And I couldn't stand that. Whereas at Nazareth, the teaching is number one, like that's the most important thing. And I feel better about that as someone who's in the field of education. I want to put a lot of effort into my teaching, and I want that to be valued. So that's why I feel like Nazareth is a good fit, because I'm the kind of person who puts a lot of time into my teaching. And I feel like that's good for my students, which is what's important.
How do you react to the responsibilities of being a professor?
Well, I think one of the hardest parts is one of the things you see me doing tonight, which is going between being a mom and being a professor. So that's one of the things that's challenging for me. I think the other, if I eliminate the personal stuff and just focus on the job, I think one of the hardest things about any college professor's position is that balance between the research and scholarship that you're expected to do and the teaching that you're expected to do, and the service. So those are the three things that most college there's three things that college instructors need to worry about, which is their teaching, their scholarship or research, and then service. And by service, most colleges and universities mean serving on committees, doing stuff that helps the college, you know, so you kind of, you get onto all these committees and work with people on stuff, on, you know, issues that are important to the college. Research, it depends on your field, what your research looks like. As an education professor, my research is doing things like this, working with high school teachers or high school kids, trying to learn more about the best ways that schools should run, the best ways that classrooms should run. So that's my research, and then my teaching is obviously the classes I teach for my students. So I think for most college professors, including myself, it's trying to find a good balance between those three things. So,
if you could transfer colleges, where would you transfer to and why?
Wow. I don't honestly think I wouldn't. I think when I ended up at Nazareth, I didn't expect to like it. I had an image in my mind of what Nazareth was, and I thought that wasn't for me. And yet it won me over, and I feel like now that it's the best kept secret in Rochester. And that I think we have a good thing, and I'm proud of our program, so, and I like my colleagues. So honestly, I think I surprised myself in saying this, that I wouldn't go anywhere else.
Were you ready to become a professor?
Ooh, good question. I guess I was, but I remember, this is going to seem silly, but when I went to the University of Rochester, I was very intimidated. I was only 31 years old. I still had, this is silly, but I still had the image that professors were like white-haired older men. And so when I went there, I sort of felt like I was an imposter, and I felt like people weren't going to take me seriously, even though I had the degree. And I really did have what I needed. My mentor at UB was very good at preparing me for the teaching part. I felt like I was really ready to teach the classes. And I was also pretty ready to do the research. But I lacked confidence for a little while. And the other thing I feel like was the hardest for me that I wasn't ready for was how to balance it all. I think at U of R, a lot of people are workaholics, meaning that they work overtime, I mean, they work evenings, they work weekends, and as a person who wanted to have a family, that was very hard for me. So I don't feel like I was ready for the balance part of it, but I feel like I was ready for all the separate pieces. I just didn't know how to put all those pieces together.
If I was to ask you, what do you think is the toughest part of being a professor, would that go back to the part where you were saying being balanced?
Yeah, I do think it's okay. I do think the balance thing is still the hardest.
What skills do you know now that you thought, how can I twist this question?
It might be like what skills I look for in my students.
What skills do you look for in your students?
Thank you. Yeah, so I teach mostly juniors and seniors in college, so I kind of have the nice part about most of my students are already kind of used to college life by the time they come to me. But the kinds of things I expect out of them is that they've already developed some good time management skills, that they can, when I give them a syllabus that sort of spells out what our semester is going to look like and what kinds of assignments they're going to have to do, that they have the skills to figure out how to get all that done. I also assume that they have fairly decent writing skills, and that I can say, you need to write a paper that includes citations to research. And I do provide some support for that, but I assume that they've had some exposure to that before they come to me. And I assume that they have I guess one of the biggest ones, I assume they have good reading skills and that they can read critically. I try to support that through my class, but I assume that if I give them an article to read, that they can read it and have an opinion about it and be able to say some things about it when they come to class. And I guess a certain amount of maturity that, for me, maturity includes being able to say when you are overwhelmed. I'm a pretty open person, so if they come to me and, instead of just struggling in silence and then just not handing things in and not showing up and that sort of thing, that they would have the maturity to come to me and say, can I come meet with you? And then we could talk about the struggles they're having and we could work on a solution together. I would much rather have a student do that than to sort of hide the fact that they were struggling and that, and not be able to work something out together. And then I guess finally what I look for is, because I have a lot of my students are going to become teachers, is I look for them to be, to really care about kids and to be passionate about education.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You don't need to write everything down because it's getting recorded.
I'm gonna skip questions.
That's fine.
What is any advice you would give to a high school student to help them prepare or be ready to college?
I think for a high school student, I would say practice time management, trying to really try to discipline yourself. We don't always, even as adults, there's tasks that we all dread or that we all are not in the mood to do, but you got to do. So you have to kind of find ways to discipline yourself to get the work done that needs to get done. The other piece of advice I would give is read, and even if it's fiction or something that's not super heavy, but you're also going to have to learn to read more technical and heavier stuff. So get support from teachers, but the more you have to understand, I guess I would say be persistent, because when you read a difficult text, everyone struggles at first. But the good readers are the ones who stick with it and who try different strategies and who try it over and over again. They might read the same paragraph 10 times, they might take notes on it or draw a picture or do whatever they have to do. So I think practicing to be active readers, because most college professors still require a lot of reading. And I think just like most skills in this world, reading gets easier with practice. So don't blow off readings and try to fake it through. Actually read the stuff you're supposed to read and really work at it. And then also read stuff you enjoy too, because any kind of reading practice is good. And then writing skills too. You end up being judged a lot on your writing skills. So get support from good English teachers or tutors or whoever you have that can help you with your writing and give you feedback on your writing, because it's always going to be something that helps you.
Okay.